welcome to CYC News for the 29th of November 2020 and the 20th of Hatur 1737 AM. I am Anastasia Hanna. In today's headlines, French lockdown to ease after second peak passes. New South Wales reopens border after COVID-19 cases plummet. Saudi Arabia denies Crown Prince held secret meeting with Israeli PM. New deal to secure oil tanker abandoned off Yemen. Oxford University COVID-19 vaccine is highly effective. Liverpool quartet up for 2020 Best FIFA Football Awards. Argentina football legend Diego Maradona dies aged 60. But first to France, where the country began to ease its strict coronavirus restrictions this weekend, allowing non-essential shops to reopen. France has reported more than 2.2 million cases and more than 50,000 confirmed coronavirus-related deaths since the start of the pandemic. In a televised address on Tuesday evening, President Emmanuel Macron said the country had passed the peak of the second wave of virus infections. He said the situation would be reviewed on 20th of January, and if infections remained low, bars and restaurants would then be permitted to reopen. Universities would also be able to accept students again. However, if the situation had worsened, he said he would look at options to avoid triggering a third wave. The bulk of lockdown restrictions would be eased from 15th of December for the festive period, with cinemas reopening and general travel restrictions lifted, as long as new infections were at 5,000 a day or less. Mr. Macron said, "We must do everything to avoid a third wave, do everything to avoid a third lockdown." Lockdown is now replaced by a nationwide curfew between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m, except on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. Returning to Australia now, where here in New South Wales, the border has reopened with Victoria for the first time since July, after coronavirus cases there fell to zero. Victoria, which imposed a tough lockdown after a surge in cases, has reported no new infections since the beginning of November. The state is also relaxing its rules on wearing face masks. Australia has recorded close to 900 deaths and 28,000 infections in total. The country has relied on lockdowns, widespread testing and aggressive contact tracing to push daily infections nationwide close to zero. Hailing the latest figures on Sunday, Victoria's Premier Daniel Andrews said they were a testament to the character and the conviction and the amazing job that every single Victorian has done this year. In New South Wales, Premier Gladys Berejiklian welcomed the reopening of the border with Victoria, saying she hoped it would never happen again. She said, "It will be a whole new era for both of our states," she said. Australia shut down its international borders early in the pandemic and requires all arriving travellers to spend 2 weeks in quarantine in designated hotels. Melbourne saw cases surge to more than 700 a day in July. It has recorded 90% of the country's COVID-related deaths. Saudi Arabia's foreign minister has denied that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu flew to the Gulf Kingdom last Sunday to secretly meet Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Prince Faisal bin Farham Al Saud tweeted no such meeting occurred. Mr. Netanyahu has declined to comment on the Israeli reports that he was on board a private jet that travelled from Tel Aviv to the Red Sea city of Neom. It would be the first known meeting between leaders of the historical foes. US President Donald Trump has been pressing them to normalize relations after brokering deals between Israel and the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain and Sudan in recent months. Saudi Arabia cautiously welcomed those moves, but indicated it will wait until there was a peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians. Citing unnamed Israeli sources, Israel public broadcaster Kan and other media earlier reported that Mr. Netanyahu and the head of the Mossad intelligence service, Yossi Cohen, attended talks in Saudi Arabia on Sunday evening with Crown Prince Mohammed and US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Mr. Netanyahu said he would not comment, adding only that he was working on broadening the circle of peace. But in an interview with Army Radio, Israel's Education Minister Yoav Gallant appeared to confirm the meeting took place, saying talks between Mr. Netanyahu and Crown Prince Mohammed were an amazing achievement. Over to Yemen now, where Houthi rebels have agreed to allow a UN mission to inspect and secure an abandoned oil tanker off the Red Sea coast. The FSO Safer is loaded with more than 1 million barrels of crude oil, and experts have warned of an environmental catastrophe if the vessels break apart. The tanker has had virtually no maintenance since the start of Yemen's devastating civil war 5 years ago. UN spokesman Stephanie Dujarric said the work could begin early next year. The rebels reached a deal granting the UN team access to the tanker in July, but the decision was never implemented. Mr. Dujarric said the new agreement announced in an official letter from the Houthis would be more formal and represents an important step forward in this critical work. The 45-year-old FSO Safer is anchored about 60 kilometres north of the rebel-held port of Hodeidah, which is a key lifeline for aid supplies to much of Yemen's population. In some health news, the coronavirus vaccine developed by the University of Oxford is highly effective at stopping people developing COVID-19 symptoms, a large trial shows. Interim data suggests 70% protection, but the researchers say the figure may be as high as 90% by tweaking the dose. The results will be seen as a triumph, but come after Pfizer and Moderna vaccines showed 95% protection. The vaccine will play a significant role in tackling the pandemic if it is approved for use by regulators. The vaccine's architect, Professor Sarah Gilbert, said, "The announcement today takes another step closer to the time when we can use vaccines to bring an end to the devastation caused by the virus." The UK government has pre-ordered 100 million doses of the Oxford vaccine, and AstraZeneca says it will make 3 billion doses for the world next year. Prime Minister Boris Johnson labelled the news incredibly exciting, with further safety checks still to come to support the results so far. Speaking at a Downing Street briefing, Mr Johnson added that the majority of people most in need of a vaccination in the UK might be able to get one by Easter. And in sport, Liverpool's Virgil van Dijk, Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane and Thiago Alcantara are in the running for the men's prize in the Best FIFA Football Awards. Manchester City midfielder Kevin De Bruyne is also in contention as part of the 11-player men's shortlist. England and Manchester City defender Lucy Bronze is one of the 11 players nominated for the Women's Award. Liverpool boss Jurgen Klopp and Leeds United counterpart Marcelo Bielsa are on the men's manager shortlist. Chelsea manager Emma Hayes is in the running for the Women's Manager Award, along with the Netherlands manager Serena Wiegman, who will take over as England head coach in September 2021. FIFA says the winners will be chosen via a combined voting process involving the captains and head coaches of all national teams around the globe, and an online ballot of fans and submissions from a select group of more than 200 media representatives. Voting will take place between 25th of November and 9th of December, with the results being announced during a ceremony on 17th of December. Tottenham forward Son Heung-min's goal against Burnley has been nominated for FIFA's Puskas Award. Sophie Ingles' Women's Super League goal for Chelsea against Arsenal Scotland International, Caroline Weir's effort for Manchester City against Manchester United, and a goal from Dundalk's Jordan Flores against Shamrock Rovers are other nominees. Football legend Diego Maradona, one of the greatest players of all time, has died at the age of 60. The former Argentina attacking midfielder and manager suffered a heart attack at his Buenos Aires home. He had successful surgery on a brain blood clot earlier in November and was to be treated for alcohol dependency. Maradona was captain when Argentina won the 1986 World Cup, scoring a quick-fire brace against England in the quarter-finals, which included the infamous Hand of God goal and another later voted as the goal of the century. And that's all for CYC News. A reminder that you can watch this news bulletin again throughout the week on YouTube. I'm Anastasia Hanna from the CYC studios in Sydney, Australia. See you next time.